Hello, I am William Jamal Wright.
And I'm Hattie.
And this is our podcast, HattieJo. What are we doing? So we are continuing our year-long journey of discussing emotions. And so this month we are going to discuss jealousy. So, yes.
I think we touched on it a little bit in a past podcast, maybe about the frustration and anger one. I could be misrecalling that, but I think that's what it was. But we thought it was worth delving into on its own.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's funny, like, you think about jealousy, and it's kind of like, I kind of put it like on the same level as like envy of somebody else, and kind of what somebody else either has, like belongings or possessions, and you're like, either they shouldn't have that, or like, I should have it. Like, they don't deserve that. Like why do they have that? Or like, I work harder than them, or I am someone that is deserving of that
As well.
Or more deserving of it than they are.
Sure.
Like, they are the one that gets it.
So would you, the way that you kind of said that at the beginning, I wasn't sure, do you feel like envy and jealousy are similar, different, synonyms, or what?
I feel like they are definitely like synonyms, and they definitely, like, when I think of times that I have been jealous, it is definitely like I've been envious of other people, and it may be of like possessions that they have or like situations that they're in, but it's definitely I consider envy and like jealousy to be synonyms.
Yeah, I do.
So
too.
what about you?
Yeah, I consider them to be synonyms too.
Well, it's funny to like think about like jealousy. Like, I think we are always quick to like say like and identify other people as jealous, but I don't think it's something that like we talk about as a society.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. It's very common for people to be like, oh, you're just jealous, or like maybe that's what you say to yourself, like they're doing that because they're just jealous or whatever. But I don't think we're nearly as quick to be like, oh, I'm jealous.
Yes.
But with one caveat, I do think in society it's pretty common to flippantly say like, oh, I'm so jealous, or like, oh, you got a new puppy, I'm so jealous, or but I don't think that's a real discussion of jealousy. I think it's more just
I think it sounds like they're trying to like compliment the other person.
Yes, it sounds like more just like an expression that culturally we have to show that's a fun thing, you should be excited about it, I would be excited about it too.
Yes.
I wish I had that. Like, maybe you do or don't really wish it, but it's just some way of expressing, I see your excitement about it and it's valid. But I don't think that's at all anywhere near the same as actual jealousy. Because I think a lot of times we use that expression about something that maybe you don't actually want, right? Or a situation that you wouldn't actually be excited about,
yeah.
but you see that the other person is, and you could see how maybe somebody would be excited about that, or specifically how that person, it fits in with their life goals and their outlook, right?
It's
but like for you yourself, maybe you do want that, maybe you really are jealous, but oftentimes you're not, but it's just a colloquial
it's funny how you
say.
like you kind of put that like, oh, I am so jealous of you, and it's funny, like, if you think about that, like, you're kind of recentering like someone else's joy around you. Like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like, oh, I'm happy for you. Like, you get like there's a distinction. You're definitely like recentering like the emotions and like the situation around like you, as opposed to like acknowledging the other person. Right.
Like, there's a difference between, somebody has something and another person's response is, oh, I'm so jealous of that. That is centering on the other person, versus that other person could say, how exciting, I'm so happy for you. I mean, I guess saying I am so happy for you, that's still showing like your own emotion. But
it's you, like, I am happy for you. I feel like still, it's centered around the person that you're happy for. Like
Yeah.
the center of the happiness
It's the
is
person.
the person,
Not you.
not you.
Agreed. And another thing I think that's really interesting about that phrasing, not only, as you point out, that does it kind of, it's a very self-centering phrase,
Yes.
as you're pointing out, but also it plays into this conception we have as a society that it's a good thing when other people are jealous of you. Do you know what I mean? Or that, like, someone being jealous of you is an honor now, or this is great, you know, other people are jealous of me, and it's like,
It's just
where
hating.
does that come from? Yeah, maybe.
But I need some more haters. I don't have enough haters.
And I just think that's really kind of weird. Just like you're saying, why is it not more common that we're saying things such as, I'm so excited for you, that's wonderful, but it turns into I'm so jealous. Like, when did society replace having other people share in your joy with, it's better to have them be envious of you as opposed to sharing your joy? So it's just so
Well, I wonder, like, just with like humans, I bet like it's always been like there's been haves and have-nots, and so like the haves and kind of the people that have like material things and like extravagant experiences, they are able to like kind of hoard that over, or I don't know if hoard is the right word, but they basically like are showing off in front of all of the have-nots, and they're like, I think in my mind, like they're kind of showing off, and they're like, you should all aspire, you should all aspire to be like me, and so like, because you can't be like me, you should be jealous, or you should be envious of me. And I think like, especially now in like the social media era, like you literally can show like everything that you're doing. And so like, not everything that you do is trying to make other people jealous, but like that social media has become a way of making other people envious of you.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up, so I have 2 points that I want to say to what you just brought up, because I think that is a really good point. And the first is maybe the reason society has a lot of response of, oh, I'm so jealous, is because it makes that other person, for that brief moment in that specific scenario, feel like they're in the have group as opposed to the have not group. And that can be a good feeling, especially if you normally identify as a have not group.
Yes.
But the second, so that was just an interesting kind of, maybe that's part of the reason. But the second thing you bring up is about social media, and I think especially in younger age children, preteens, tweens, teenagers, early adults, we see a lot more of this dissatisfaction in their life, fear of missing out, all these types of feelings that are really just jealousy brought on by having this knowledge of seeing all this stuff that they wouldn't have felt 10 years ago
because like
they wouldn't have seen
media,
it. And I think social media also does a really good job of only capturing the highs, right?
Well, I think people only post the highs. I don't know if like social media.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, some people there's always going to be people on Facebook or Twitter that are talking about negative things, but the overwhelming majority of content on social media is great things. People don't post, here's my messy room, or here's this bad thing that happened, or I've been working all day, I have nothing to post. Right? So no one is seeing that you're working all day, but when you go on that fancy vacation because you worked all day for 2 years in a row, now you can afford this fancy vacation, you post that, you know, people only see, it's like an iceberg thing. They only see the tip without seeing all the rest that kind of comes with it. And I think the same goes with, so I follow a lot of parenting stuff on social media. Not necessarily like how to parent, but a lot of former gymnasts have children now, and it's all about like their parenting journeys, whatever. Anyway, it's that same type of thing. Rarely are you posting about the times your kid is screaming in the bath or won't eat their dinner or all these crazy stuff. You're only posting the cute, adorable moment, or You know, so
the moments when you actually have time to like get a phone and take a picture, not the times where like you're too busy like actually parenting and trying to like watch over them.
Right. And how do you capture the extreme exhaustion you're feeling? Like that's just not something that's documentable photographically. So it doesn't get posted. So anyway, that was a little diversion. But your comment about social media made me think of that. So I think that pervasive feeling of, oh, they have all those things, I don't. Now I'm envious of them. Is a lot more common than it was in the past.
Well, it's funny. It's like you brought up like the fear of missing out, and I wonder if like that is kind of like
FOMO.
Yeah, kind of like on the spectrum of like jealousy. If that's kind of like on the low end of like, I don't want somebody to do something because if they do it and they have a great time, then I'm gonna be jealous of the time that they had.
I don't think it's necessarily I don't want someone to do something. It's just I don't want to be doing what I'm doing. I want to be doing what they're doing. Like I don't want to miss out on that. And so it's a very self-centered.
Yeah.
It has
but
nothing
is it like
to do.
a form of jealousy? Like.
So I think so. So when you started this podcast, this episode, I mean, you mentioned, oh, jealous of them having things or experiences. And before we started the podcast today, I was thinking about what are the topics I kind of wanted to explore. But I think with jealousy, there are several different categories. And specifically with the category, when I said we kind of touched on it in the past, I know that my perspective, the previous time we talked about it, was more of in romantic relationships being jealous. But I think that's a type of category, right? Like it's both a possessive thing, it can be, but it also is a time thing. Like I've never been very possessive in my relationships. Like I want you and then you can't interact with other people or whatever. Like it's not, in my mind, it's not a possessive thing, but it's very much a time, right? Like I enjoy spending that time, or I'm jealous that their attention is spent elsewhere, right? So that's one type. I'm not trying to get into that discussion quite yet, but then there's another type of I'm jealous of people's possessions. And I find that I personally, I mean, I have experienced it, but I don't experience it as often as I experience a different type, which is jealousy of how people can spend their time. So rarely am I like, oh, they have that great thing, I wish I had that thing. Because I'm just not a very materialistic person. Like, sure, there's a spectrum and I'm not at zero, but I'm probably at the midpoint or under of the whole spectrum.
Average, yeah.
Right. So people having things is not something I normally get very jealous about, but people having time to, or the leisure to spend their time in certain ways is something I do get very jealous about. Like when I'm feeling jealous, which I wouldn't say is a ton of time,
so the
majority is on experiences as opposed to on things. And I wouldn't say I experience FOMO a lot, but I definitely think I tend more towards that because it's like, I'm jealous that they're spending their time this way. I wish I could be doing that. And rarely, I guess I wouldn't say it's like, oh, I wish I was doing that right now. I normally only feel those things when I feel like I don't have time to do that type of stuff. It's different if it's like I chose this weekend to do something else instead of that thing, then I don't feel FOMO. But I've spoken, one of my close friends has explicitly mentioned that she very much feels FOMO often, especially when she's on social media, and that greatly influences how she chooses to spend her time. So I know that some people gravitate much more towards that than others. Some people have a lot of both, right? Like, and so I'm curious, do you feel like there's different designations, kind of like I laid out, of jealousy, or do you kind of see it just as one thing?
I see it as one big main thing, but I do see how you've kind of like created like 3 categories.
Yeah.
And I actually like would like to kind of talk about each category kind of
Let's go
like
for it.
briefly.
And before we do that, which category do you feel like you find yourself when you are envious? Which category would it be?
I would say like the most envious or jealous I have been in my lifetime about people have been about like possessions.
Interesting. Like the
and-
material possessions.
Yeah, the material possessions. And I've definitely kind of like went through my own maturation process and like understanding that, and kind of, I think honestly a big part of that was like starting to work with like Leslie Barnes and Jackie Seiler, and kind of like finding my like passion and working in like when I worked with like young people and kind of helping them along their journey, like
You're more fulfilled in other ways,
yeah,
so you didn't look to the material thing.
yes. And I wouldn't say that like, yes, I was more fulfilled in like my job and what I was doing, and so that definitely I was maturing and making better decisions. But yeah, I would say like a lot of my jealous and envious of other people's possessions, that was definitely like in mid-20s, and like I'm a very competitive person, and so like
Understatement of the century.
and so like my jealousy would turn into like drive to like start thinking about like the next steps, and like how am I going to like
It would fuel your competitiveness.
how am I going to like do things to like achieve these things. So that was kind of like my jealousy and envy of those materialistic things like drove me to working hard, and drove me to like think of ways to like maximize like my dollar and things like that, to like achieve those things or gain those possessions.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, on how the jealousy interacts with your life, right? So you feel this feeling, and then that motivates you to take certain actions, and so the feeling kind of fuels your future actions.
Yes.
For me, it fuels my future actions, but it's more in a retrospective way. Like we mentioned, I'm not too jealous generally of things, but often about how people spend their time. But I've noticed, like, for me, it's very much when I start having a lot of feelings of I'm jealous that they're doing that. It's a signal to me that I'm not getting enough self-care time. Because when I feel like I have time to do the things I like to do, such as going on workouts, listening to podcasts, you know, taking it easy now and then, going on hikes, doing scrapbooking, right? When I feel like I don't have any time to myself, all I'm doing is like work. That is when I start to have a lot more feelings of enviousness that other people are relaxing, or other people are on this vacation, right? Whereas I don't have to be on a grandiose, amazing vacation. If I'm getting my needs met, then I feel happy doing the things that I'm doing, and it's like, oh, that would be fun, but I'm not envious of it.
Yeah.
So it's more of a signal, like, this is how things have been going, that's where the feelings come from, but it does motivate me to say, okay, maybe I need to make some changes in my plans, or how can I incorporate more time for self-care. So it does influence my future actions, but it's more born of my past actions, I guess.
Well, it's funny for me, like I am not really like envious of how other people like spend their time, because I always feel like in my life, like I always tell myself, like, I've worked hard enough that if I want to do something, then just make it happen. So like, if I really want to go to Mexico, like, just figure out how to make going to Mexico happen. And so like, I pride myself on like, all right, this is important to me. No matter what else I have to sacrifice in order to make it happen, like I'm gonna make it happen. Like I have made like snap decisions in an effort.
Of you.
Well, I've made snap decisions in an effort to be able to like do what I want to do. Like, right? So like there may have been like a weekend where it's like, all right, I could, like, there was one birthday weekend, and a close friend of mine and I, like, we flew up to New York for the weekend, and it's just like,
fun.
Yeah, like, this is something, like, maybe it's not the most cost efficient thing to do, like, but
no one's
it's
judging. Whatever.
but
It's your
like,
birthday. This
yeah,
is what you wanted to do.
Yeah. So, but this is a way that I can spend my time. Like, it's not interfering with work. It, like, we can make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we went to New York for a weekend. Like, and I honestly, like, I think of spending my time in terms of like spending it with people. And so, like, I've oftentimes, like, I kind of had this. It was my grandmother's birthday earlier this year. And we may have talked about this, but I was kind of going back and forth on.
Right, should you go or should you not? Because of coronavirus, all that stuff, it was just starting.
Yeah, so like, I ultimately decided to go, but it's because that's how I wanted to spend my time.
Well, and because it's like, she's very old, right?
Well, yeah, but like.
I feel like if she was 60 and in perfect health, you may have made a different choice.
True.
Right? So I think that just reinforces your argument, right? It's extremely important for you to spend your time with people you love and care about.
Yes.
And when that time is limited, you're going to take full advantage of the time you have.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And make the most,
Right. So
of the opportunity.
Exactly. So because that time is limited, you're going to make the most of the opportunities, even if there are risks inherent in that decision.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had much, much more time, you might say, well, the risks outweigh the benefits because I have so much other time.
Yeah. But yeah.
I mean, maybe not. But for me, it's less of like with your example with the New York trip. I wouldn't feel like, oh, I wish I was traveling to New York and doing those things. It would be, I wish I had the luxury of having a weekend to have the time to go on a trip, because instead I'm doing all these other things I don't want to do. So rarely do I feel like FOMO, which is I wish I was on the New York trip. I'm missing out on the New York trip. It's more of a just, I wish I had the free time to do not this. Like, so I think that's a little bit different. But anyway, did you want to talk about each category?
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about two of them.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you meant more specifically or just, so okay, we've talked about two of them, great.
Yeah, so I think the final one is just like, because we've kind of talked about possessions, we've talked about.
Oh, well, I guess I wasn't quite done on some of those. So
go ahead then.
So I think, and this could just be me personally, but I was not surprised to hear that you, when you feel envious, it's hush, really, it's okay. It's more towards material possessions. And I think that may be because I have lived like a very privileged life, and anything that I wanted, like I had as a kid, right? We would write Christmas lists and we would get most of the things. You know, there was never a time, like sure there was times when I would, as a teenager or a preteen, I would need new clothes and my dad would be like, all right, let's go to Goodwill, and we're getting like really old clothes. But I mean, if that happened a few times, but we always had clothes.
Yeah.
And if we put up a big fuss, I'm sure, because I know there were times that my dad, as a birthday gift, would be like, here's some money for a shopping spree, like go get whatever you want. It wasn't like our only option to get clothes was Goodwill clothes. Yeah. So my point with all this is that I never really had need. I'm not saying that you did, but I'm saying that was never a concern for me. So all of my needs were met, so why would I feel jealous about what other people had? And so it's more of, as growing up, I like to do different things with my time. And I would see my parents like have to make decisions about, there's only 24 hours in a day. I can choose to do this, but that means I won't be able to do that. And so in the life the privileged life that we led, the commodity that was in shortage was time, not material things. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. And that kind of like, what you're saying is that shaped how you kind of, as an adult, how you view like possessions versus time and
well,
jealousy.
It definitely just shaped the whole concept of like, the hot commodity is time. And since I've never had the true feeling of need of a thing, right? That to me is not something I feel very jealous for. But I mean, that only goes to me, right? I'm sure there are plenty of people who are plenty wealthy that are very materialistic, right? And get very jealous of people's things, even though they've never experienced need, right? So I guess it's more just saying the paradigm that I grew up in definitely demonstrated the thing that was in short demand, or high demand and short supply, was time. So would you say that's representative of your upbringing, or would you feel like that's not at all, like none of that kind of shaped your perspective, or?
I would say that did not like shape my perspective, because I feel like growing up, like I had a lot of time around like family and stuff, and so like that shaped my importance on family, and kind of, even though now I'm away from them, like it's still like was a part of my upbringing. So I never felt like time was in short like supply, because I was always like with people, well, for the most part I was always with people that I enjoyed being around, and I was doing stuff that like I enjoyed doing. I would say that like on the possessions like aspect of like envy and jealous, like I don't know. I haven't. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about it some more.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I definitely think we've checked off 2 of those boxes. Do you think there's any other kind of broad categories, or does that kind of cover it?
For me, that kind of covers it.
Okay, so did you want to talk about the 3rd category?
So, what? Well, you're the one that broke them down into the categories.
Okay. Right. So it was material possessions.
Yes.
Which we've discussed at length. It was time. And some of that kind of is intermixed, right?
Yeah, and we kind of talked about them as like dichotomies. Word? Yeah. As like opposites.
Right, one or the other.
Yeah.
But then the 3rd, which I think is separate and can kind of fit into both categories, is interpersonal jealousy. So you're not jealous of like an external thing having time. It's like a emotional relationship jealousy. But I think sometimes people, oftentimes in romantic relationships, or it doesn't even have to be romantic, it can be a friendship, and some of these same issues can arise. Often the word described is possessive, right? They're jealous and possessive. And so I can see some people having a perspective of like, you're mine, right? And so it's a very ownership, possessive, materialistic perspective of jealous. And when people are, with other people, talking to other people or doing whatever, and the romantic partner is getting jealous, they might feel like they might no longer be mine.
Yeah.
Or it might be more of a time thing, and they don't have this whole possessive in terms of like an object that I own, you're mine, I'm yours, and it's more of a like, they're no longer spending their time with me. And I'm jealous that they're spending their time with other people. And that's what's making me jealous. Not that I feel like I own them or whatever. I guess it's kind of a fuzzy distinction that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's still, they're feeling insecure about their relationship as a result of some actions. And that's making them feel this jealousy. Is that something that you experience at all?
That is not something that I experience. Cause like I'm always like in relationships in general. I'm always of the mind frame of like one, like I am a good catch. Like I think. Thank you. Well, I just think very highly of myself as a boyfriend. And so,
yes, you do.
But like that, just like I don't like. I think very highly of myself, so I don't want to.
You
like,
have great self-esteem, baby. You have great self-esteem.
Well, when it comes to like jealousy of a relationship, like I don't want. First of all, I don't want anyone to feel like I am forcing them to like be with me, or like I'm so possessive that like. Oh, like my self-esteem as a boyfriend can't handle you having like male friends or like being out in public around other like people. So like I just have a very like high self-confidence as a boyfriend. So like I don't, and I keep saying that, but like
it's true.
I don't want to get I absolutely refuse to get jealous of like of my significant other out like and getting like possessive of them.
So my question to you is like, you absolutely refuse to do it. Does that mean it's a conscious choice not to, or is it just something you purely don't even have the impulse to feel?
No, it's a conscious choice, like
okay,
not to.
And so, talk to me a little bit about. I mean, I think it's great that you make that conscious choice. Don't get me wrong. I would not want you to do anything else. But I'm just curious, what kind of led you to the situation where you are like so adamant that you make this conscious choice? Because I will say before you answer, I definitely pick up in our relationship that I am much more jealous than you are in the romantic relationship category, and I wish I could make that conscious choice.
Oh, well, there's definitely been times where I've been like,
and
I've had to like calm
myself
myself down and be like, just relax. Like, absolutely nothing's gonna happen. Like, you know that she's going home with you. So there have definitely been moments where I've had to like kind of get inside talk myself off a cliff here. Although like, but it ultimately like. There was no action taken. It was just all in my head.
In your head. I need to. I will definitely say that, to your point, I have gotten a lot better at that. At A, not even having that impulse in the first place, but B, also being able to talk myself down as I become more confident in myself, and not just confident in myself, but comfortable with who I am and who I'm not.
Yeah. Right?
So maybe I still have insecurities, maybe I'm still not confident in some ways, but at least I feel like I know who I am. I'm not trying to be someone that I'm not, and that allows me to be much more just comfortable with myself and gives me more confidence in myself, and as a result I feel those impulses less, and when I do feel them, it's easier to talk myself back down. Because I've definitely been in situations where I did not have those positive feelings about myself, and then You're laughing. That's fine. Well deserved. So I think your point when you're like keep saying all this, I think I'm great as a boyfriend. I think that's important in order to be able to
to stop the jealousy and like stop the jealousy turning into action.
Right, because every
that
single
can turn
time
into a toxic bone.
Yeah, every single time, like I could never once has me acting on my jealousy turned out well. Right? Never once. And every single time I'm like, I shouldn't have done this. I know better than to do this. I could have predicted this would go poorly. But in the moment, I don't have the sense of mind, or sometimes I do have the sense of mind to be like, this is only going to end badly, and it's like, well, I'm too mad or too upset.
Yeah.
To
I need to take action.
Yes.
I need to take action.
Right. So, yeah, I forget where I was going with that. But
yeah, so like you were kind of asking me like, kind of how did I get to...
Yes,
like,
how did you get this strong conviction?
Well, like, one, I feel like I've had like good verbal communication with my girlfriends in the past, and you, my fiance. Like, you verbally tell me that like I'm a good boyfriend, and so like that is something that like is often a reminder to myself. But like I feel like as I've gotten to see like other people's relationships and friends and stuff, like I kind of been like, like how did they get into this situation? And like not judgment of the situation, just like, all right, how do they get there, and how do I make sure that I do not get there?
Right, so you're not judging, you're analyzing.
Yeah, and like the way that I don't get there.
What is it about them that they got there?
Yeah.
Right.
And like oftentimes it comes back to the reason that like they're in this situation is because they got jealous. And like they got jealous and they didn't have enough confidence that like they didn't have enough confidence in the relationship that like everything was all right. The other person, like they just didn't have enough confidence in the relationship.
Or in themselves, right? It may be they have...
Well, I don't like, everyone that I am thinking of, that I know of, that I would say jealousy was an issue, I know all of them, or I perceive all of them to have like high self-esteem of themselves.
Yeah, and but it's like, you never really know unless somebody...
Yeah, I don't really know, but like, my perception...
Effortless perfection, everyone likes to pretend.
But
like,
I don't think they're effortlessly perfect. I just think they have like high self-confidence.
Sure, yeah.
And so, and I definitely, I could be wrong. Like there's definitely a margin of error.
I'm just saying, if they have that confidence, then they wouldn't need to be jealous.
But like, they don't have the confidence in the relationship. Like the relationship is what they don't have confidence in.
That's
they have confidence in themselves. And I think having confidence in yourself and not necessarily confidence in your relationship will lead to jealousy.
So I have two things to say, but I'll save one for later. The first thing is, I'm curious about your distinction of confidence in yourself versus in a relationship, because I definitely feel, at least for me, the two are basically one and the same, right? Like I talked previously about, it's when I didn't have confidence in myself that I was a catch, or that I, are constantly feeling like people are going to leave me. When I didn't have confidence in myself, it was much easier. I had a lot more jealous feelings, and it was also more easy to succumb to those jealous feelings. But once I had confidence in myself, I am a great catch, I am an awesome person, that gives me confidence in the relationship. Why wouldn't they want to be with me? Like, for lack of a better way of phrasing. But like, and if they don't want to be with me, that's their loss.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, I'm only confident in the relationship because I'm confident that I'm awesome and they would want to be with me.
So
I'm to me
Yeah.
they seem the same. So that's why I
They're,
would like
like-
to hear your perspective on what makes the two different.
yeah, I would say like they're not the same because like you can have confidence in yourself in that like I'm a great catch. I can like get with anybody that I want to get with. Like
Mhm.
and so I feel like that is the confidence in yourself.
Okay.
Like but when you don't have confidence in the relationship, then like there is a lack of trust in the other person. There is like a
Okay,
lack
so you're
of
saying-
trust. Like there's a lack of trust that in a situation like you won't make the decision to like care about the other person and like not do something to hurt their feelings.
Gotcha. So you're saying confidence in yourself is, I mean, I think we're all in agreement on what that is. And confidence in the relationship is more of trust in the other person. That they're gonna
Or
act
trust
in-
that like you won't act like according to the bylaws of like
The
of a monogamous relationship.
Fair, okay, fair. So you could proceed, just to make sure I understand you correctly. You could think you're an awesome catch, but you might say,
And that you can catch other people.
and I can catch
anytime.
other people anytime, but I have reason to believe my partner is not going to be faithful. That would be a situation where you have confidence in yourself, but not confidence in the relationship.
Yes.
Or vice versa. I'm a great catch. I can be with anyone. I have a relationship, but I'm not confident I can be faithful.
Yes.
So therefore, I'm confident in myself, but not confident in the relationship.
Yeah.
So I presume then that the corollary is also true. You can have lots of confidence in the relationship, but not have confidence in yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
That's-
So you would say confidence in the relationship, is it just about trusting the other person is going to conform to the bylaws of the relationship, or are there other elements beyond trust
I would say that's like
the main thing?
the main thing,
Okay.
or at least like that I'm aware of. Like
Okay. Interesting. This
And
is
that's
very,
why, like-
this is illuminating.
that's
love
why
it.
I had like I don't have any jealousy of like in our relationship, or at least I'm able to like in moments of like maybe there's some jealousy, like I can talk myself off the ledge because like I have self-confidence in myself, and I also have confidence and like trust in our relationship.
Gotcha.
And also, like-
I would agree from my perspective. You know, like I never once feel like you're going to do things or say things that would be disrespectful to me or our relationship.
Yeah.
And therefore, I have no like fantasy in my mind of you acting in a way that violates that.
The bylaws.
The bylaws, yeah. Me and my non-negotiables, you and your bylaws.
Well, it's funny too. Like I would say the third thing is that like I can't control like I can't control if you like
You
if
can't
you
control me.
I can't control you.
I
So
can't
if
control you.
if you decide to like cheat, like it wouldn't make a difference if I'm like jealous.
Controlling or-
Yeah, if
yeah.
I'm jealous or possessive of you in a moment, like there's nothing I can do. Like you made the decision. Like my jealousy is not gonna stop you from like
Doing whatever
Yeah.
I choose to do.
like the jealousy doesn't do anything. It doesn't help.
Yeah, so that's the part where you're good with that and I am not, because I logically know that jealousy doesn't help. But I think that's a great point, and so one of the things I wanted to circle back to when I said I have two things, I'm going to get into one here and save one. So the one that was saved is coming out now, and you had said at the very beginning that you're able to stave off the jealous feelings or acting upon them because in your words were like, I have good communication in the relationship. And you then went on to say, because people have told me I'm a good boyfriend, right? So when you made that comment, I was expecting you to say something like, my girlfriend and I are very good at telling each other our thoughts and feelings and needs. But what instead you described, there was a lot of communication with my past girlfriends, and with you, my fiance, is you guys tell me I'm a good boyfriend. Is that an accurate representation of
Yes.
Yes. So you're referencing, I get feedback that I'm a good boyfriend. That's how, one of the ways I know I'm a good boyfriend. For me, I'm able to stave off those jealous feelings and stuff, not necessarily because I'm getting the feedback that way, but because I feel like we have a different kind of communication that's open and honest, and I feel like I can tell you, this bothers me, this makes me feel good, this, and a lot of relationships where you don't have that, it's a lot easier to misinterpret somebody's actions or to get in your head about certain things, and then they keep doing certain things, but it's because you're not able to tell them how you're feeling. And it could just be that whatever they're doing is innocuous and you're interpreting it totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be that if they knew it made you feel this way, they would certainly not do it, right? And so having that open communication and learning
can help combat
those things, right? Because I think we've had a lot of that in our relationship, and talking about, like, when I do this, I'm coming at it from a perspective of this, you're coming at it from this other perspective, which is why you feel so bad about it. But if you understand where my perspective is coming from, you can see that it's innocent and within the bylaw, like aligning with the bylaws, right? Or whatever you want to say. So I would say that's the other element: self-confidence in myself, trust, self-confidence in the relationship, or trust in your partner. But also having that open communication is really important.
To combat jealousy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any other thoughts on the jealousy stitch?
I do not. Do you?
I think I've said a lot of things.
Yep, we have been going for a while now. So, with that being said, that is what we're doing.
Yeah. Deuces.